Hey everybody, welcome to another Meeple Madness review. I am Taylor, and here we try to give you open and honest reviews about some games to see whether or not they're good enough to make it on your table. So today we're talking about Powergrid. Powergrid is an economic-based game for 2 to 6 players and takes about 2 hours to play. The object of the game is to win, and you win by building power plants and actually powering them. First one to build and power the X amount of plants wins the game. So let's open up the box and see what's inside Powergrid. First thing is a rule book. Like every game, it comes with a rule book. Now this rule book has some pros and cons to it. It is black and white. It does have some good illustrations though. And there's quite a bit to it. Yeah. So 7 pages of rules. Yep. But it does illustrate out. It does tell you everything you need to know, but it is a little hard to keep track of because there's just so much text. Okay? So, yeah, rulebook. Next we have a game board. Now this game board does have 2 sides that you can play, which is nice for replayability. There is the United States side, and there's a Germany side. So whether or not you really want to power the US or Germany, it's up to you. Now the board itself is pretty nice. It's laid out well. It's a fairly accurate map of the United States. Right up here in the corner we have the turn order, which is going to change throughout the day. You have how many power plants each person makes. And along the bottom you have resources. You can power your plants with either coal, oil, garbage, or uranium. So let's see what else we have. We have the actual factories in 6 different colors. Here are the plant cards. Some cards have a gray backing, some have a white backing. The ones with the gray backing are going to be the first ones that you are going to use. Now on the actual cards themselves, it tells you what the resource is and how many plants to power. So here you put down 2 coal to power 2 power plants. And the number up in the corner refers to how good it is. The higher the number, the better the plant is. So a 10 is probably better than a 4, where 2 coal powers 1 plant. Then you have these player cards. This tells you how much money you get for how many plants you can actually power. Building them and powering them are 2 different things. And on the back it has what happens in a round. Next we have resources. These are the actual resources that you're going to buy. They're going to be lined up here along the bottom track. And we have money, the means to the ends. Unlike some games where money is the only way that you win, this is just the means to the end. You win by actually powering the plants. So now let's actually take you through what usually happens in this game. Okay, so the first step, I really have to cut this short because this game is very involved, it's very in-depth, so I just want to give you the basic rundown. First off, every single turn you determine player order, and in player order you bid on factories. So there's an actual market that you can bid on, which is the top row, and there's the futures market, which is on the bottom row. Of course, this you're going to want to set up on the other side of the board, not actually on the board itself. Okay? So this is lined up in order. It starts off every game like this. Also, you start off with this card, number 13. It's a wind-powered station on top of the deck. So in turn, people bid on which one they start. Whoever's player first, you're going to bid, okay, I bid 5 on number 5. And then you go around, and people can bid or they can pass. Okay, until that station is bought. Next, you flip over a new one. You rearrange the order. And whoever's second picks a place that they want to bid on, say number 6, they go around again, and you do that until everyone gets a power plant. Note, this is only the case to start the game. Every other round, you do not have to buy a power plant if you don't want to. Okay, so next you buy resources, and there are 4 different resources. There's coal, oil, garbage, and uranium. Now there's also wind power, which is a free resource that you get when you buy that green power plant, so you don't actually need to buy wind. So what happens is that in reverse turn order, you buy resources. Now this can generate a scarcity or an artificial scarcity in each different product. Since on any given power plant, they can purchase and house on their plant double what it has down here in the corner. So you need 2 garbage in order to power 2 plants, but you can hold 4 garbage on this card, which drives up the price of garbage. So if you are going first and you want to generate that artificial scarcity to boost up prices on your opponents, then you buy double what you need. Now, depending on the amount of players and what phase of the game you're in, phase 1, 2, or 3, that determines how many of what resource are going to get replenished at the end of the round. So if more is bought down here than is going to be replenished, then that drives up the price even more. And this is actually a pretty good model for how supply and demand works. Now, when it's time to actually build plants, you can build on what sections of the game that you are going on. So if this game is full, if it's a 6-person game, we're playing with the entire board. And we are in the first phase, which means that the cheapest price of each city that I can build in is going to be $10. Alright, so if I spend $10 here to start in Oklahoma City, and I want to expand down to Dallas, that's going to be $13. $10 for the plant there, and $3 for the connection cost. Houston, $10 for the plant, $5 for the connection cost. Now you can build as many plants as you have money for. You don't have to power them, or you don't have to be able to power them to just build the building. That's all you're doing. You're building the building. Okay? Now after everyone has gone along and have built however many power plants that they want to build, then you actually generate power. And that is where you have your plants come in, because however many plants you can power that you have built, that's how much you get paid. So let's say this is my only plant. I have 2 wind power, which is great. I don't need to buy resources. So I power these 2 plants. Well, what about this guy? This guy doesn't get powered. It just sits there and it takes up that space. But it does not actually get me money. So I power those 2 plants. 2 plants, I get paid $33. So this game has an odd balancing system where it actually helps you to be in last place, because then you can buy resources first, you can build first, and you have your choice of power plants during the auction, where it slightly hurts the person in first and it helps the person in last. So you don't have a runaway leader, which is a problem with a lot of board games. Okay, so what is good and what is bad about Powergrid? Well, let's go down the Meeples. Now the first Meeple, art. Now the art of this game is pretty good, from the box all the way down to the actual cards. So all the art that you have on there is very practical, as well as it looks nice. It is a little cartoony, but that's pretty normal for a board game. So, as far as the art Meeple goes, I'm awarding it the whole Meeple. It does what it sets out to accomplish. Now let's talk about the second Meeple, components. Now the components are pretty good for the most part. The board is very easy to unfold, it's going to last you a long time, and having the double-sided board is huge for replayability. Now the actual cards of the power plants, they're also good cards. They are going to last a long time, and you don't need to, you only shuffle them once a game, so the wear on the cards is pretty easy. The wooden components for the resources, very good components. They're going to last you a long time. The only downside is the money. The money that changes hands between you and the bank each round. The money is very flimsy. It's Monopoly money. It's easy to rip. It's easy to crumple. So as far as the component Meeple goes, I'm awarding it 3/4 of the Meeple. Now, the big thing. The guy that cost 2 Meeples, okay? This is gameplay. Alright, now the actual gameplay is iffy. This is a pure economic game that has different parts of economics at play. At the beginning, you start with an auction. Then you move on to supply and demand, and whether or not to artificially drive up the prices. Then you have the geographical strategy of where to put your plants. Planning out your money in advance so you can make it through the auction, so that you can make it through buying resources all the way to building plants. Then you reorder everything, and then you move on. And when you hit phase 2, the rules slightly change. When you hit phase 3, the rules slightly change. Every time I play this game, I have to recheck the rulebook to make sure I'm playing it right. So if you do know, what phase comes afterwards, you can play the game and you can enjoy it, even though the rules slightly change each phase. As long as you're playing with somebody else at the table who has played before, you're going to make it. If you're sitting at this table, nobody's played this before, it is hard to get through and hard to understand. So this game is very inclined towards the economic gamer at your table. And the game takes 2 hours to play. So as far as the gameplay Meeples go, I'm awarding Powergrid 1.5 Meeples. Okay, so the everything else Meeple, the it factor Meeple, the Meeple. First, let's talk about price. Price is a big factor for a lot of people picking games. Now, the suggested retail price of this game is $45 US. However, that being said, this game has been out for a number of years. It has been a very popular game, and to the extent where it has several different expansions that you can play. So the base game, you can actually find online for $25, $30. Price, in the ballpark. Under $60 for a game like this is great. Next, replayability. It's basically the same game every time. It's the same main mechanics. But how you want to invest your money, where you want to build, you know, the fact that you have a board with 2 different sides to it, that does really help with replayability. So it does have decent replayability. It's not a game where every game is going to be different, but it does have pretty good replayability. And it is fun enough where if you have that economic mindset, you want to pull it out every now and then. A lot of people find this their most fun game. Now, the it factor. Is it going to hold its own on your game shelf? Yes. This is a game that is a staple for a lot of people. This is a solid economic game. Now, if you don't like economics games, it's not going to hold its own on a shelf. There are games out there that are economic games that are way more fun to play. Chinatown. Here's a video on Chinatown. Nice economic game that is very family friendly. Powergrid, not so much a family friendly economic game. The everything else Meeple, I'm awarding it 3/4 of a Meeple. Okay, so overall, as a game, with art, components, gameplay ability, replayability, price, everything else, Powergrid earns 4 out of 5 Meeples. It's only lacking in a couple of small areas, but overall it is a solid game and well worth the effort to play if you enjoy economic games. For more open and honest reviews, go ahead and click subscribe. There are videos coming out every week and where I will give you an open and honest review of the game. In the meantime, I am Taylor and I'll see you at the game table.